Here's a number that should stop you cold. When the European Commission tested honey coming across its borders, 46% of it came back suspected of being fake, cut with cheap sugar syrup, and sold to families as pure honey. We are talking about rice syrup poured into the jar, pollen stripped out so nobody can trace where it came from, and Chinese honey smuggled through other countries with forged paperwork to dodge American tariffs. I went through the EU's own investigation, the largest food fraud case in US history, and the FDA's own position on what counts as honey. Honey is one of the most faked foods on the planet, and in the United States, the rules protecting you are weaker than almost anywhere in the developed world. But stay with me because I will show you 3 kinds of honey that are the real thing, and the one label check that beats almost every trick on this list. Stay until the end because number 1 is a billion-dollar smuggling operation, and it is probably sitting in your pantry right now. Real honey is expensive to make. Bees, hives, beekeepers, time. Sugar syrup made from rice costs a fraction of it. That gap, real honey around 2.5 euros a kilo, rice syrup around 50 cents, is the entire reason honey fraud exists. It is one of the most profitable food scams on earth, and one of the hardest to catch. Here is what every trick on this list has in common. 3 red flags I used to build it. 1. It is documented in the public record. The European Commission, US federal prosecutors, the FDA's own statements. Not rumor. If I could not source it, it is not on this list. 2. It exploits something you cannot see or taste. Fake honey is engineered to look and taste like the real thing. 3. You can beat it with a simple check, and I will give you all of them at the end. One honest note before we start, because it keeps us fair. Suspected is not the same as proven in every jar, and the testing methods are still being sharpened. Some flag samples may come from bees fed sugar, not deliberate fraud, but the direction is not in doubt, and it comes from governments, not gossip. Let's count down. Number 7, pure and natural on the label mean nothing. At number 7, the 2 words that fool the most people. In the United States, only 3 claims on a honey jar carry any legal weight. The USDA organic seal, the USDA grade, and the country of origin. That last one required by the Tariff Act of 1930. That's it. Pure, natural, premium, all natural. The FDA has no formal definition of natural for any food, and none of these words require a single specific standard. A jar can be heated, ultra-filtered, blended from 4 countries, and stripped of everything that makes honey honey, and still legally say 100% pure on the front. So here's the mindset shift for this whole video. The front of the jar is marketing. The back of the jar is the contract. Number 7 is about the words. Number 6 is about what they physically take out. Ultrafiltration strips out the pollen. At number 6, a process that erases the honey's fingerprint. Pollen is how a lab proves where honey actually came from. It is the honey's DNA. Ultrafiltration is an industrial step using heat and high pressure that forces honey through filters so fine they remove nearly all the pollen. And here is the key fact. The FDA has stated in writing to the industry that ultra-filtered honey with the pollen removed is not honey. Yet a landmark 2011 investigation testing grocery honey with a Texas A&M pollen expert found that around 3 out of 4 samples had all the pollen filtered out. Now, to be fair, removing pollen is not proof by itself that a honey is fake. But ask the obvious question. Why would anyone spend money to erase the one thing that proves where their honey came from? The answer is almost always the same, because they do not want you to know. Number 6 removes the evidence. Number 5 adds the cheap stuff. Diluted with sugar syrup you can't taste. At number 5, the actual adulteration. This is the heart of honey fraud. Real honey is stretched with cheap sugar syrups, made from rice, wheat, or sugar beet, that are chemically tuned to slip past testing, and they are good at it. One of the tests the FDA has relied on can only reliably catch adulteration once it passes roughly 20%, meaning a jar that is up to 1/5 syrup can still be sold to you as pure honey. Fraudsters even run their blends through accredited labs first, adjusting the recipe until it passes. So this is not a home cook adding a little sugar. It is an industrial operation engineering a product to beat the exact tests that are supposed to protect you. You will not taste it. Your body basically gets sweetened syrup where it expected honey's enzymes and antioxidants. And if you think diluting it is the worst of it, wait until number 1, where they don't just fake the honey, they smuggle it across the planet. At number 4, the number from the top of this video and where it came from. In an operation called From the Hives, the European European Commission's own laboratories tested 320 honey shipments imported from 20 countries. The result, 147 of them, 46%, came back suspected of being adulterated with sugar syrup, in breach of the EU's honey rules. Break it down by origin, and it gets sharper. Of the samples from China, 66 of 89 were flagged. From Turkey, 14 of 15. This was a coordinated action with the EU's anti-fraud office. Dozens of operators investigated, and it pushed the EU to pass new mandatory origin labeling rules. To stay honest, these are suspected cases, and the testing science is still evolving. But when a government's own labs flag half the imported honey, that is not a rumor, that is a warning. Number 4 is Europe's problem, but number 3 is why it becomes yours. Some imported honey carries antibiotics and metals. At number 3, we move from your wallet to your health. When cheap honey is smuggled in from countries with weak oversight, it does not just bring sugar syrup. Investigations and federal records have documented shipments of imported honey, much of it traced back to China, containing illegal antibiotics like chloramphenicol along with lead. Chloramphenicol is a drug banned from food-producing use precisely because, in rare cases, it can cause serious reactions in sensitive people. Now, this is the part where I stay careful with you. This is about specific contaminated shipments caught by investigators, not a claim that every imported jar is toxic. But it is the reason the country of origin on that label matters so much. When honey is laundered to hide where it came from, it also hides whether anyone checked it for this. You cannot inspect what you cannot trace. Number 3 is the hidden risk. Number 2 is the trick that hides it. Honey laundering, smuggled and relabeled. At number 2, a scam that sounds like a crime movie because it is one. Back in 2001, the US slapped heavy anti-dumping tariffs on Chinese honey, eventually as high as triple-digit percentages, to stop it from flooding the market and wiping out American beekeepers. So the operators found a workaround, shipped the Chinese honey to a third country, India, Vietnam, Malaysia, Cambodia, swapped the labels and paperwork, and send it on to the United States as a product of that country. Investigators literally caught them painting the shipping drums a different color and forging manifests. And this is not old news. In 2026, authorities in Cambodia seized around 80,000 pounds of honey from a company accused of relabeling Vietnamese honey as Cambodian, after it had already shipped more than 9 million pounds toward the US market. That is the machine that puts mystery honey on your shelf. Number 2 is how it gets here. Number 1 is the scale of it. The billion-dollar scam in your pantry. At number 1, the reason all of this keeps happening, the largest food fraud case in United States history was a honey laundering scheme. Prosecutors said the operation evaded roughly $80 million in tariffs by disguising Chinese honey, and by one widely cited estimate at the peak, about 1/3 of all the honey consumed in the US had been smuggled from China through another country. Think about that, not one bad jar, 1/3 of the supply. And here's the part that should make you angry. The US still has no binding federal standard of identity for honey. The FDA has issued only non-binding guidelines, and it does not routinely test what is on your shelf. Its own recent sampling flagged only a small fraction, because most of it is never checked at all. Europe tests at the border and still catches nearly half. America mostly does not test at all. That is the whole scam in one sentence. It is enormously profitable, hard to detect, and barely policed. Congress has been trying to pass a Honey Integrity Act to fix it. Until they do, the only inspector protecting you is you. That is the real lesson of this list. The 3 that are actually real honey. Now, here is the good news, because real honey is out there, and it is easy to find once you know the checks. Here are 3 ways to land on the right side of every trick you just saw. Number 3, I read the country of origin and demand one country. That line on the back is required by federal law. If it names a single source, product of USA, or one named country, you can at least trace it. If it says a blend of honeys from several countries, or lists nothing at all, put it back. Multi-country blends are exactly where laundered honey hides, and no country listed is illegal. One country, clearly stated, is your floor. Number 2, look for a real certification, not a marketing word. True Source Certified is an industry program built specifically to trace honey through the supply chain and fight laundering. The USDA Organic Seal is federally regulated, and a growing number of honest brands now advertise NMR testing, a lab method that builds a full molecular fingerprint of the honey, far harder to fool than the old tests. A certification you can verify beats a pure you cannot every single time. And number 1, buy raw, local honey from a named beekeeper. This is the whole answer in one move. Raw honey keeps its pollen, its proof, its fingerprint, its traceability. Local honey comes from someone you can often name, sometimes even meet at a farmer's market. It has not been ultrafiltered into anonymity or blended with syrup from 4 countries. The beekeeper's rule says it best: no pollen, no proof. If you can't trace it, don't taste it. And there is a bonus. Every jar of real local honey you buy props up the American beekeepers that this entire laundering scheme has been quietly putting out of business. The fakes at the bottom of this video hide where they came from. Real honey is proud of it. That is the entire difference. So that is the list. Real honey does not hide where it came from, what is in it, or who made it. Here's your rule from today, and it takes 10 seconds in the store. Turn the jar around, find one country of origin, look for raw, a real certification, or a local beekeeper's name, and be suspicious of the cheapest jar on the shelf, not the priciest. With honey, cheap and anonymous is the warning sign. And here is the thing, what you just saw with honey is not unique to honey. The same game, cheap filler dressed up as the real thing, labels that tell you nothing, a supply chain designed to hide the truth, is sitting in your bread aisle right now. And what's actually in that healthy whole grain loaf might surprise you. That video is on your screen now. I'll see you there.